Well, buongiorno, buenos dias, willkommen, and how do you do? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Inside Out Effect podcast, episode 11, and today we will be covering PTSD. And for those of you that don't actually know what PTSD stands for, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm your host today, Stephen Jakes, taking over from Jonathan Shaw from the last episode. And I'm from the therapist and also my website, healingthemind.co.uk. And I help people with their emotional and their mental health issues. But alongside me today, as usual, I've got the encyclopedic and the Reader's Digest of Therapy. The lovely Jonathan.
Does that mean my head's full of nonsense? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. But he's obviously he's the author of the book Decoding Pain: The Emotional Blueprint to Healing Chronic Pain.
That is true. I am the author of that book. Yes, I am. Yes.
And I said it right.
You did say
it's
it right.
It's taken 11 episodes.
What, do you want a badge?
Yes.
I mean, what are you looking for? A medal?
I don't know. How about a free book from
a free book? It wasn't worth that much. I'll buy you a free cookie later or something.
Great. Okay, so anyway, we would hopefully we're now been getting quite a big following on our podcast. So if you are listening, please please share and please subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And also, we're pleased to announce that we're now available to listen to on iTunes and on Stitcher, the podcast platforms. And also as well, you can now go to our website, inside-outeffects.co.uk, where we've got a specific page where we put all of our podcasts and you can listen to them live off of our website.
Yes.
Which is a new addition to the website. So well done, Jonathan. And also,
don't forget, we also have a Facebook page, which you can get to through the website, or you can go facebook.com @InsideOutEffects.
Yes, @InsideOutEffects.
@InsideOutEffects. And we're going to be posting all the latest podcasts on there and all the videos that we now start doing.
Yeah.
And all the latest updates of places we're going, events we're holding. So all that information will be on our Facebook page.
And also as well, we'll be putting specific posts to get you thinking, to get you to rethink the way you possibly look at your problems or your issues. And also we'll be sharing different ways, or new ways, I should say, not different ways, but a new way of looking at your problem and how to resolve them. So if you do have a specific problem or you're stuck, then there's a central point now where you can actually contact us within the community, and other people will be able to benefit from the comments that we write as well, which is already happening.
Yeah, and please come on and ask questions about specific problems, and we can do further podcasts or little brief videos explaining. Or if you have specific questions you want to contact us, but post in the Facebook group, and we'll do our best to help as much as possible. The Facebook page, help as much as possible to anyone suffering with any mental health problem out there, emotional or anything like that. To help get back to being who you are again, so you can live your lives.
Yeah, great. So, as I said, today's podcast is covering the topic of PTSD. But before we do, we like to have a little bit of a flib-flab and a chit-chat. And before we reveal the information related to PTSD. But firstly, welcome back, or hello, Jonathan. I say welcome back because you're always here, so I don't say welcome back. But how you been, mate? And what's been up? Because it's been 2 weeks since we've done the last podcast.
Has it been 2 weeks?
2 weeks, because we've obviously had stuff going on, been really busy and stuff.
Because you had a little boy, didn't you?
I have a little boy, yeah.
Was
I'll
that
talk
good?
about that in a bit. But
yeah,
it was lovely.
It was lovely, yeah.
Yeah. But how you been? I hear you've. I know you've been really busy with stuff, and I know that behind the scenes you've been doing a lot of work with the website and just all the stuff that all the collateral that we're currently putting together, and you're doing a lot of work behind the scenes about. But outside of that, what's been going on with you for the last few weeks?
Yeah, I've been busy putting the website together and getting everything on iTunes and Stitcher and things. So that's been really good for both of us. And while you've been relaxing and with your son and just doing nothing, just
relaxing.
Just relaxing. Yeah, it's relaxing.
Really operative word.
Yeah, just chilling out, and relaxing. No, he does a lot of hard work as well, Steve.
Yeah.
Just bless him. And he just recently did the video on there. So if you haven't seen the video of when we launched our official website from the exhibition we did, go on and check that video out, because Steve did that video, absolutely brilliant, and he edits and everything, all the podcast and everything. But no, I've been busy doing that, but I've also been working with lots of people, treating people, and I had a lovely. Well, I want to tell two stories. One is a very exciting story, and the other one is a story of sometimes how we can't help people and the reason why we can't help people. So the first story is a great story. It's a lovely young girl came to me. She's 19 years old. She'd been suffering with anxiety and depression and chronic pain, and the chronic pain has been diagnosed different things several times over, and they finally settled on a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. But but she's been to 3 different counsellors over the years, and just suffers anxiety everywhere, basically. No matter where she is, whether she's at home, whether she's out and about, whether she's at university, she suffers anxiety. And she found me through her dad. And in the first session, we did the first session, she was very, very sceptical. She'd been to lots of things, she didn't really understand how we could do what we're doing. But she wanted to get better, which is the key. You do have to want to get better.
Yes, that's the key.
And she did want to get better. And we did the first session. But one of the things that happened in the first session was, obviously when we do this, well not obviously, but when we do this, we get people to close their eyes. Because when you close your eyes, you are more focused on your unconscious mind. You're not distracted.
Yeah, well, you're shutting the conscious element off.
That's right, yes. You're shutting it off because a lot of things around us, they distract us. We're like magpies. We look at shiny things, or, we're constantly looking at things. So to focus, we need to shut our eyes. But that was actually a trigger for this young girl. Shutting her eyes triggered her.
So it must have put you in a predicament there.
So it made her anxious doing that. Yeah. It made her panicking. So the first thing I had to do was switch off the closing of the eyes. Now this actually affected her because it stopped her sleeping. Because if you can't close your eyes, you can't go to sleep. So we switched that off, and that switched off really quick in about 5 minutes, and then she could close her eyes. And she found this absolutely incredible, that she could now close her eyes and not have any negative response to closing her eyes. Anyway, we finished the session, we did an hour with her, and we cleared a few things out of the system. And I saw her literally this week, so a week later, asked her how she'd been. She said she's been much happier. She said her anxiety's reduced right down. She said she can close her eyes and sleep, so her sleep's better. Loads of things improved, but what's also very cool is the pain has decreased by 20%, and we didn't even cover the pain. We didn't even go into the pain. We just started clearing the anxiety, and the pain naturally reduced on its own. So she had loads of massive improvements in the space of a week, whereas before she was doing all these other things, they just weren't working for her. But she had a massive improvement in a week, and she can hardly believe the results that she's got. In fact, she can't believe the results that she got, but she has got the results. And that's often what we get with people. Even when it happens, they still can't believe it's happened, but it has happened. So it's like an undeniable proof, but it's the human mind still can't comprehend it. That's why we sometimes find it difficult to explain. We can switch it off because the human mind cannot comprehend it. In fact, one of my friends, I switched off her phobia. So one of my friends, she was doing a walk over the O2 with her daughter for her birthday, and she had a fear of heights, and this is kind of it could be a PTSD thing because she had a traumatic event with heights happen when she was young. She had several events happen, and this is kind of related to PTSD. It's a small PTSD type problem, and often phobias do come out of traumatic memories, and that's basically what happened. But she wanted to do this walk for her daughter because her daughter wanted to do it. So I spent an hour one morning, just at the weekend, just switching off these past memories and any other belief system she had around it. And she went over the O2 absolutely fine, no problems. And in fact, she got halfway up the O2, was looking out, and her friend behind her was gripping the handles, scared. And my friend went, oh my God, she just realised that she wasn't doing that. She realised that she was not having that reaction, whereas before that would have been her. And she didn't clock it till she was halfway up the O2, looking out of the view. But what was happening was she was then at work the next day explaining to her colleagues what had happened, and one of her colleagues had a height phobia. And everyone around her, most people went, oh, that's amazing, that's fantastic that you was able to do that. But this other person went, no, I don't believe that's possible. And my friend went, well, but I just did it. And she went, no, it's not possible. So even though someone was saying to her, this other lady, that she'd actually had her phobia switched off, this other person was denying it was possible. And that's what the brain does. It's completely illogical because my friend wasn't lying. She walked over the O2.
Yeah, so somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't know the process, doesn't know anything, doesn't know the outcome, is actually saying that...
But she knows my friend. They work together. And she was categorically saying my phobia went, the fear went. And this lady was still arguing that it was possible. And it's not that the brain, it's not that she doesn't believe it's possible. It's partly because if it's possible in one person, then why can't she do it? So the unconscious block is that she has to deny it. So unconsciously, that's what actually goes on, partly. We have to deny things because if one person's done it but we don't know how to, we don't often think, well, to find out how to, we just go, oh, no, it's not possible. Or we want to keep it for a reason because we feel shamed and guilty of something and we don't think we deserve to get rid of it. And that can often then make us deny the possibility of something. Because if you're actually in your right mind, you would never actually. If someone says I got rid of this and you got it, you wouldn't go, oh, it's not possible. You'd ask, how did you do that?
I said to this guy...
You would ask that person, how did you do it?
I said to a guy last night, I said, when I do my little preamble before I work with someone, there's a guy here last night, and I said to him, the thing is, he said, you don't have a problem, find the solution to the problem to solve it and go, right, I know what the problem is, and I know what the solution is, but I'm going to keep the problem. You just don't do that.
No,
you just don't.
You don't have a leak in your bathroom, and then call the plumber. And the plumber goes, "I know what to do," and then you go, "It's all right. I quite like the leak."
Was it Lee Evans said, wasn't it? He said, "You don't look for your keys, find your keys, and then keep on looking for them."
No, you don't do that, do you? That's right. And you get a lot of people. They do seem to follow that process, and it is kind of funny. And I'll give an example from a guy that I treated. Now this guy, I think I mentioned him before, he had really bad panic attacks. He went on his honeymoon, had a panic attack, came back, had anxiety, couldn't sleep. Yes. Anyway, he's now absolutely fine with all of that. But at the time, he was very suicidal. He was like, he wanted to throw himself off a bridge. He didn't do it. We got him out of it. But he after one of his treatments, because we're now dealing with some past stuff, that whole thing's healed, but we now need to go back to past and deal with some other stuff. And he's not depressed anymore. And as he was walking out of his last session with me, he said, I heard in the newspaper or the radio, whatever, that someone local to him, a young kid, had committed suicide. And he heard himself go, oh my God, that's such a shame because that can be solved.
Yes.
And he thought in that moment, he remembered that when he had the depression, it was like no one could ever help him.
Yeah.
No one was ever going to solve the problem. No one could ever help him.
Exactly where I was.
Yep, and it's how it feels. But when he was out of it, he heard about someone passing because of that, and went, that's such a shame it can be solved. Yeah. So the thing is that now he was out of it, he can see that it can be solved because he's back in his logical mind. But when you're in it, you're not in your rational mind, you're not thinking clearly, and it feels very, very real, but it is an illusion. And that guy could actually now see, oh my God, that is an illusion. It was a real severe illusion in his mind, but it was an illusion. It wasn't real because he's now out of it and can see the reality. Yeah. When you're in it, you don't see reality. All you feel is the emotional response and the thoughts that go through your brain. And that's kind of the second example I want to give you today. So the girl had a great result of the anxiety and her pain went down. But this week, one of our mutual friends, lovely, lovely bloke, he's been suffering for a while, and he's just dipped into a very, very deep depression. And because he feels so bad about himself, he feels so worthless, he feels like he's so useless, and he feels so guilty, he doesn't feel he deserves to be here and doesn't deserve help. And so at that point, when you feel that way, if you allow yourself to be taken in by that, if you allow that to rule you, then no one can help. At that point, when you say you don't want help and you deserve to suffer, which is basically what he's doing, then no one's going to be able to help you because you're letting that rule you. And I know it feels very, very real. I know because I've been there myself, so has Steve. I've been in that place many years ago where I just wanted to leave the world and not be here anymore.
Well, you said earlier on about the suicide thing, and I know exactly where that was because I remember before I did the program with the reboot program, I actually said to Gregory, if this doesn't work, that's it, because I have literally done and tried in what appeared everything. Yeah. Fortunately enough, you'd done the program, met you, and then all of a sudden things are different. But so I know exactly what you mean, and it did get to the point where it does rule you because you just feel like you either think there is no option, there is no way out of the room.
Yes, that's right.
There's no way out of the room.
There's nothing else to be done. The only option is to go.
To go, yeah.
That's the only option.
I even went and told God bless him, I even went and told my parents that, I'm not being emotional, I'm not being a victim. I said, but I do not see a solution and I can't carry on existing feeling this way. Right. So, so I just wanted to reinforce that. Yeah, So I know, and other people out there might feel that. But the good thing about it is that there was a solution to it.
Yes, there was. But when you're in it, you don't feel like there is. And bless him, that's where our friend is at the moment. He doesn't want help. So the point of this story is that if you're in that place, don't give in to the illusion. Me and Steve have both been there, but we didn't give in to the illusion. Yes, we threw our toys out of the pram and went, oh my God, it's never going to happen. We're never going to get anywhere. But ultimately, we did dig deep, and we found a strength inside of us to come out and continue and do something else. And when we did, we got the result when we found the right thing. It really is about finding the right thing. So it doesn't matter as long as it works. Yeah. We talk about DTO on here and how great that is, but there are lots of things out there. It doesn't matter as long as it works. If you have tried everything and nothing's worked, then DTO often works for you. But there are lots of things out there that you can use to heal. Don't give up. Don't give in to the illusion that you're worthless, you're useless, you're a waste of space, you don't deserve to be here, you don't deserve to be happy, because that is all shame and guilt. That's all that is. Nothing more, nothing less than shame and guilt. And that can all be changed and switched off, and you can go back to being you. Please remember that you have people in this world who love you. You have people in this world who care about you greatly, and even if you only got one person who cares about you greatly, that's enough.
Yes.
Even if you only got one person who loves you, that is enough to keep you going and find a solution to this. And, we love helping people, and it saddens us sometimes when people get to that state and they just no longer want the help. When we know that if they just come to us and do the work and put the time in, we don't always get instant fast results. Sometimes it does take time with very stuck people. That 5% of people that I treat are very stuck, I treat that a lot, and it does take time, but they do gradually come out, and that's important. As long as you're coming out gradually, or you come out, it doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as you're coming out of it, as long as you're improving all the time. And that's just the message I want to get across today, that it can be done. Don't give in to the illusion that it's not possible, because I've had clients feel that way and then brought them out of it, and they've been okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really great, great way of putting it, because, there is a spectrum of people with very low types of emotional problems and mental problems to the extreme, which we've experienced there. So
yeah.
Well, that's great. That's great. That's a great little speech there, if you want to call it a speech. Yeah, it's like a speech.
Yeah.
And but I think it's really great.
Am I going to go and fight war now?
I think it's really good that you articulate that really, really well, and hopefully people that are listening, that do listen, will connect to that, or know somebody in that situation where they can help them for that. So
yes, hopefully, yes.
Yeah. So disappointingly enough, though, I've got to say, we've got no Alexa this week.
Have we she's not here?
No, unfortunately, due to, I know she made a guest appearance last week.
She did, yes. She was very vocal last week.
Very
vocal.
But
misunderstood everything we said.
Yeah, so she's not here today. She's out playing with the other chavs, which is the computer home audio voice systems.
Right.
And so she's out with Google Play and all the other Google Home, so all the other chavs there. She's out playing. She'll be back later on today. So no Alexa this week. So anybody that was tuning in
and was really looking forward to hearing Alexa's input. Yeah. Sadly, she won't be with us today.
She's not with us today.
But we'll try and encourage her back next week as a guest appearance.
Yes, exactly. So there you go.
So how's your week been, Steve? You said you've had some really good things.
I've had a couple of I've had some really good things. My fortnight's been it's been up and down, really. So just to know this, even though myself and Jonathan, we spend our whole lives not trying to help people, but helping people and nurturing people and getting them out of situations. But sometimes even ourselves will get situations that arise in our life that need to be dealt with.
Yes, that's right.
And I'm no exception. And so it's been a very tough week, because knowing that my boy was going home had put me into a bit of a state of I was okay, but I wasn't good. And then I have to get up early in the morning. I have to go to the airport. I have to get on a plane. I then have to fly him back to Ireland and hand him back to his mum. And I met this absolutely stunningly gorgeous girl on the plane. I just thought I'd mention that. Her name was Laura. So hello, Laura, if you're listening. She's absolutely lovely and really took an interest in what we do, blow her mind open about how the mind works. She was fascinated and really good. But but her name was Laura, so that was triggered me, because my ex is Laura. But anyway, so handing him back and then having to do that flight home.
Yeah.
Spending the day there and then having to fly the way home, and then the aftermath of that. Coming home to this house. With him not here and no Lego on the stairs.
Yeah, that's right. Because Lego was everywhere on the stairs.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
And all of his stuff and all of his toys, and it's gone.
Yeah,
it was difficult for me. So this week I've been struggling with that, and fortunately enough, we've done a few sessions and cleared a lot of the issues around that I've experienced. Because it has made me feel very depressed and very. I miss him, and then the whole situation around it. So just so you people out there know, we're not, myself and Jonathan aren't exempt from new experiences that happen that affect us.
You speak for yourself. I'm a complete robot. I'm perfect in every way. I'm like Mary Poppins, but the male version. No, I'm not. I'm joking. That's not true. Yeah. No, we know we do all have issues. Me and Steve had problems, and and before DTO came along, I couldn't resolve a lot of my issues because I didn't have the right technique to do it. So sometimes I'm working through stuff that comes up that I couldn't resolve in the past. Yeah. But what's Steve's been through is quite a normal thing when a couple separate. It's a normal response to go through. But the important thing is to take from this, you don't have to live with that. You don't have to be the impact of it.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, initially you were.
Yeah.
And it
Well, lucky enough,
caused you some pain, didn't it?
did.
It's actually been causing you pain.
It has caused me
tooth
some
pain,
pain.
headache and shoulder pain.
Yeah.
And we've reduced a lot of that down because it was then causing him physical pain, and that shouldn't be the case. Obviously, the emotion he went through was natural, but after a period of time, you then moving into a fight and flight state.
Yeah, I mean, ordinarily, this is the first time in the 4 years that I've been doing it that it's really affected me. And it's a bit weird. I don't know why. It's whether it's because I've changed as a person as well massively, and so it's affected me. But yeah, and also, I mean, and just we do a lot about the law of attraction and how it works, and etc. And we've got some workshops coming up, and we're doing talks and stuff. And we've done a few podcasts on how the law of attraction works. But I've also found it's affected that this week. So there's been certain things that I have not been able to do. My normal skill set of making things happen and getting these things to appear in my life has completely stopped. I said I'm trying to manifest a specific person into my life. I've heard nothing. No. That's all died a death. There's been no signs of it at all. I've not heard anything for about a month now. So, but you know what I mean? But all of these experiences, the energies will block it. And so that what I'm saying to you is that event that's happened, or this whole situation has actually affected that, because obviously it affects you emotionally and energetically. So these things do affect you. And once we switch all of this stuff off and we get back into it, I'm sure that'll be happening. And I should be back to my normal successful.
But just bear in mind, this is something
really,
with you that we've never really dealt with before. We've never really had to deal with before. It's an issue that hasn't come up before. No. And it's great that you're sharing this with people, because people sometimes think that when we do this, that the therapist must be perfect.
Yes.
And
I am. I've just got a few issues around this.
Yeah, you are perfect, totally. Yeah, you're practically perfect in every way.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be human if I didn't get upset about handing my 7-year-old son back.
No, of course you wouldn't. No, of course you wouldn't. No, that's right. It must be a difficult thing.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing.
But what I want to emphasise here is, yes, it is a sad thing to do that, and we all do go through these things. But what a lot of people do is they get stuck in those things. It's one thing to experience the emotion like you did for a few days, but when you carry it over weeks and months and years, that's when it becomes a problem, and that's when it's unnatural, and that's what you don't do. Yeah. You don't do that. You experience it, you feel it, but then you start changing it and releasing it because you recognise that it's not natural to keep carrying it. Yeah, and also it doesn't do you any good. It's not going to do your son any good to do that either.
No, and also as well, just the whole impact, the emotional impact of it. I was really angry. I was upset. Well, hang on a minute. Well, I don't want to feel like this.
No.
Well, this isn't normal. I know that it's a response to something, and I also know that response can be switched off. So it's okay to experience the fact that I'm upset about it, but once I've been upset about it and dealt with it and all the rest of it, I just don't want to carry on feeling like that for the rest of the week, the rest of the month. So I know, but the good thing about it is I knew what the issue is, and we've been able to address it and switch it off. So, but that's anyway, enough about me. So I've had, so outside of that, I have been working, doing some weekend work. And I don't know what's going on with this, but this week, I have mostly been. So this week, it's been quite a strange week, really, because I seem to have had kidnappings.
Okay.
So
you've been kidnapped personally?
No, I've not been kidnapped personally. It's probably one of the only things in my life that hasn't happened to me. But yeah, I've had two people this week that I've worked with. Both of them were kidnapped.
Okay.
Both of them were subjected to sexual abuse, and I won't obviously talk about it in detail because it's quite horrendous, really, what I got told. But so I had two people, very, very similar situations, similar amount of time.
Yeah.
The outcome was quite horrendous. But these two people have had this experience happen in their late teens-ish, right? And these people are now very much so later on in life. So I would imagine they've been having this going on for the best part of nearly 30 years, both of them. Maybe it's 25 years, by about 30 years. And so they come to see me. We were working on another issue, and and what came up was this event. And basically, I've been able to go into that event and switch off all of it. So I've switched off all of the guilt, all of the shame, all the beliefs around it, and also the other person exactly the same thing. And instantly, it's changed their life.
Brilliant.
So, because if you imagine that they formulated their whole model of relationships based on those two events.
Yes.
So those two events have created belief systems, and they've created a way of behaving that makes them then behave that certain way with their next relationship. So they're very insecure, they're very controlling, they have to be in control, because if they're not in control, something bad could happen. And do you know what I mean? So what ends up happening is they become very overpowering, very, very controlling, very, very insecure, very, very needy, very, very weak in those situations. And then basically they then act that out in their relationship, and the person obviously that they're in relationship with, there's only so much of that will happen. They've basically in the past they've sabotaged their relationship themselves, or the person's gone, do you know, I can't live with this. And then what ends up happening is that then creates another trauma, really, because they've now just lost somebody that they probably care about, really love and adore, but their behaviour and the way they act and the way they show up in that relationship ultimately is playing out because of the insecurities and only experiences of being kidnapped, and that's just repeated over and over and over again. So these people have had a numerous succession of failed relationships, and also as well, funnily enough, they've attracted abusive relationships because in that instance of the belief that they're blaming themselves for putting themselves in that situation, and they deserved it and all the rest of it. What ends up happening is their belief is they blame themselves and they feel guilty. So what ends up happening is that they then start attracting more of that later on in a relationship. And for me, I understood that because I know from my past, certain relationships have a pattern, or used to have a pattern. And there was only one relationship, which was one I had very young, when it was my teens, love of my life, first love, I really missed her. But it was after that I had this pattern of abusive relationships. That's exactly the same. That's probably why I miss her so much. But yeah, so there's a pattern. So I can see that pattern happening in these people. So as soon as I went and switched those off, and I spoke to them, the next day, I mean, I got a message before they got home. It was like, I cannot believe it. I feel like a different person already. Because what it's done is it's freedom from that trauma. So for me, two really similar things this week. Really, really happy. Really, really successful. I know that I've spoken to both those people since, and I know that it's led a massive change. It's a game-changing change for them.
Well, it would do, because that'll be a severely traumatic.
And I'm going to say, them
event.
two people are really brave for being able to go to it,
That's
tell
a very
me, and
brave thing.
share it with me. Well, not share it with me, but allow me to tell me what their experience is, so I can switch it off and change it for them.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
Because
and I did that. Each one was an hour, by the way.
Wow.
Just 1 hour.
1 hour.
1 hour for both of them.
That's
There's going to be some other bits.
There's little bits around it, but the main thing,
both of them was done in an hour.
That's incredible, because people live with memories like that and events like that their whole life, believing that nothing can change it, believing that they'd have to live with it and cope with it and maintain it and just kind of accept it, and it just, they say, it affects their whole life. So to be able to do that for someone in a very short space of time, just that one memory is going to dramatically impact their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So, which sort of brings us on. It's a great segue.
It does work very well and brings us on to today's subject.
So
We've finally got there. That's brilliant. In under 30 minutes. That's fantastic.
That's great.
We've really got to beat that record.
It's about right. So anyway, the main content of today's podcast is PTSD, and for me, from my experience, is that since I've been doing this particular work, one of the things that I've been very, very successful at is PTSD. I just seem to have a natural knack for it. I don't know why, but I seem to do. And in all instances of this, so I had the car crash, I've had the kidnappings and all of this stuff, I've been able to do every single one in less than an hour.
Yes.
Which is, for me, when I work, and which is strange, because when I'm working on minor, I have to call it minor, but other emotional things, like beliefs about something, I'm not good enough or worthless, I can't do that in an hour sometimes.
No, you can't. No, that takes a bit longer.
It's mad. But something you'd think, but you generally think that, something as big as that would take a long time. And I'm just going to say that in every case, I've never been able to do it for under an hour. So it's about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, for those of you who don't really know. And so I'm going to go and ask you, Jonathan, about the traditional viewpoint, because they say it's caused by experiencing or find something traumatic. So it could be a road accident, violent assault, it could be a sexual attack, muggery, a health problem, or childbirth. And generally, PTSD can develop immediately after someone experiences a disturbing event, or it can occur weeks or months after, depending. So I just really want to go and get your perspective on this, and maybe elaborate a little bit why that's happened and how it works and potentially what the solution is.
Yeah. Okay. So traditionally, the NHS describe PTSD often is where someone relives traumatic memories. So, post-traumatic stress disorder is an anxiety disorder caused by very stressful, frightening, or distressing events. From the NHS website. And they're actually correct. That's what PTSD is basically.
We've actually got a traditional viewpoint. That's
which
right.
Is quite good. That's okay.
Wow.
Most traditional viewpoints
Incredible.
I actually disagree with.
Yeah.
But there is a few things missing from that they don't actually understand. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain a few things that they don't understand and the missing piece to it,
that'd be great.
which is very, very important to change. If you don't change that, you're not going to change the whole problem. And it's actually the thing that drives the whole problem in the first place. So the first thing is that what they say is that symptoms of it can be flashbacks and nightmares, feelings of isolation, irritability, guilt, insomnia, difficult to concentrate, and it affects your day-to-day life. What they've missed off there is it can also cause phobias, it can cause addictions, it can cause ill health, anything from pain to autoimmune problems, and a whole host of other symptoms in there. Anxiety, depression, all these sorts of things can be caused from these traumatic memories. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why some traumatic memories cause depression, why some cause anxiety, why some cause ill health, why some cause addiction, and some cause phobias. But that is unknown traditionally. And so that confuses traditional medicine as to why that happens. And the other thing that traditional medicine say is that PTSD can come on sometimes instantly after a traumatic event, the symptoms,
couple of weeks later or years later.
And they again don't understand why that is. And I'm going to clarify exactly why that happens.
Great.
Because if you don't understand that, you can't solve it. And it's a really big missing piece, and it's something that's very logical to understand with things that I've learned over the years. So the first thing is, different symptoms would occur with PTSD depending on your perception of the event. So if the event happened and you felt attacked or you felt powerless during the event, the traumatic memory
would set in, wouldn't it?
So anxiety was setting, exactly. If it was a territory issue for you, you lost someone, so it was in the war, for instance, and you had a war memory, your friend was shot or killed or worse, and that will be a massive loss for you. Then that would create depression. If it was something that affected your self-worth, or it affected your self-worth or any other territory issue, it can then affect organs in the body like your musculoskeletal system. It can then cause other problems on you, your ill health, digestive issues, all types of different illnesses that could be created with it, and then addictions and phobias and things like that.
Psychosis and stuff like that.
And psychosis and some, different things. And these all manifested depending on your perception of the shock that you go through. So depending on how you perceive it, how you take it personally,
dictates the response
that you're going through. And that is basically it, because one of the other things they don't understand is the NHS say that 1 in 3 people who experience traumatic memories have PTSD, and they don't understand why the other 2 don't have the problem. Well, the reason is they don't take it personally. So they're not making it mean something about themselves. And that's basically it. When we have traumatic memories, we are put into a fight and flight system, and our fight and flight system is on, and our fight and flight system is for us, to designed to get us out of danger. But if the other 2 people don't go into fight and flight, they're not going to have the problem. If they don't think they're in danger constantly, or they don't have that fight and flight response, they've got to curl up or run away or fight, then they're not going to get the post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. So that's the reason why you're going into fight and flight when you have PTSD. And different.
So in the moment of shock, your body goes into fight and flight. It creates the shock, which will then have a correlation to how you perceive it, which will then automatically dictate the response to the shock.
The shock. Yeah. That's right. So for instance, if you go through a traumatic memory, if the symptom you start getting are things like insomnia, or loss of appetite, or you start getting anxious, those symptoms are in the stress state. So that means you're in stress about it right now, and you're stressing about the memory right now. And those symptoms happen immediately after the shock. If symptoms come on a few years later, that means they're going to be more illness-based. They're going to be more depression-based, more phobia and addiction-based, or actually chronic illness in the body, autoimmune, chronic pain. And that's because those symptoms are in the repair phase of the body. they're in your parasympathetic nervous system,
Yeah.
and that can hold off for years. You can stay in that stress state for many years, and you move to repair much later on. Sometimes the way you move from stress to repair is fast, but often it's a slower process. So that's why symptoms sometimes come on years later, because those symptoms are in a different nervous system. And the nervous system you go into immediately after the shock has certain symptoms, and the second nervous system has different nervous systems.
Yep.
So when you go into your fight and flight state, that's your sympathetic nervous system. That's the part you go into immediately after the shock, which creates things like insomnia, anxiety, digestive issues like loss of appetite, cold fingers, cold toes, constipation. It causes all types of problems like that. Whereas years later, once you try and resolve it and calm down and relax, months, weeks, years later, you then start getting depression, you start getting chronic pain, you start getting illnesses, and phobias and addictions.
Fatigue
and that's where,
as well and stuff like
fatigue,
that. Yeah.
tiredness constantly.
Well,
These
just
are
interesting, because I remember there's this, there's ME. Would that also be?
ME is
that something different?
ME is a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily.
No, I'm just using that as in terms of like in that. Could that be something to do with a shock?
ME is to do with a shock, yes,
Yeah.
and that's actually two shocks, so it's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
ME, but yes, there's a tiredness involved in the repair phase, and ME is in the repair phase.
Yeah, that's what I
and
thought.
that's where tiredness kicks in.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more complicated, and I'm sure we'll go into that another time. But in the repair phase, of your body, the second nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, that's where we feel tired. So in the stress state, if we can't sleep, if we've had a memory hit
the
us
energetic state,
and we can't sleep, that's the anxious nervous state, the energetic state you say, and we can't sleep. Later on, as we calm down or come out of it, and we can stay in that stress state for weeks, days, years, months, but as we do come out of it, we then move into the repair state, and that's when we want to sleep, and we feel more tired. And that's why when people have depression, they just want to curl up on the bed covers and sleep, because it's actually your body trying to repair, even though it doesn't feel like repair at the time. But again, that's not traditionally understood with traditional medicine. So that's why different symptoms come at different times. Now, because they're in different nervous systems. And once you understand that, it makes it so simple to understand what's going on and what's caused it in the first place.
Yeah.
So
And also how to solve it.
and how to solve it, yes. So hopefully that's dispelled a couple of myths about PTSD. So that explains why the symptoms come on years later. Explains why some people get PTSD and some people don't, even though they've been through traumatic memories.
Yeah, I was just going to say that because there will be a perception that depending on how bad the incident is, depends on how bad that person is. But actually, it's more about the incident is irrelevant. It's about the perception of it.
It's about your perception of it. That's absolutely correct. So the incident is irrelevant. In fact,
so
all incidents are relevant. It's about how you perceive it
Yes,
about
I was about
yourself.
to say. So if you've been so if you've seen someone, let's say you've been in the trenches or you've been out in Iraq and did bombs and mines or whatever, and you've experienced something like that, someone who could have been in the back seat of a car accident could have exactly the same symptoms as that person because they perceive it.
Yes.
At exactly the same level.
Yes.
So it's not. So it doesn't really matter what the incident is or the environmental thing is. It's just your perception of what.
Yeah, you can perceive a really small thing and it can become very traumatic in your mind, and you can have a very traumatic thing happen to you and you only perceive it in a minor way. It is totally your perception, and your perception is based on how you take it personally.
Yeah.
And that comes down to your shame and your guilt. And whether you feel deeply ashamed and guilty about it, and whether you make it mean something about you. If you don't make it mean anything about you as much, and there's not so much shame and guilt, it's not going to affect you. If you can logically see that it wasn't your fault, there's nothing you could do, and you can accept that, you are not going to take that as personally. But sometimes, human nature, we like to consider ourselves good people. We take on responsibilities. We feel guilty and ashamed about things which were not in our control. We had nothing to do with it. We couldn't do anything about it. And we feel dreadful about it. And that's what creates a problem.
Yeah, because that's a really great thing, which allows me... Remember last week I talked to you about the guy that I had from the... He was 7, and he was in the Civil War.
Civil War, that's right.
The Belgian offensive line. He was 7 years old. Whilst I was clearing that trauma, that PTSD for him...
Yeah.
He felt guilt and shame about the fact that France and Belgium were in the French Congo and the Belgian Congo were having a civil war. They're firing missiles at each other.
Yeah.
He's in the middle of it, and he thought he was to blame.
Yeah,
He was 7 years old.
7 years old. Now, that logically to anyone listening is insanity, and we both know that.
Yeah.
But in that 7-year-old boy's mind, because he had a shock, it then he took it into his brain in the wrong way, and he just created a scenario that wasn't true.
Yeah.
And that is actually what happens. The unconscious mind is so funny the way it works sometimes, and the things it believes. And you just would not believe some of the things me and Steve hear, some of the belief systems that people have, because they make no logical sense.
Well, all you've got to do is look at the memes on Facebook.
Well, yes, that's true. Yes.
Some of the stuff that people are posting about it, which is sad, because because people read that and will connect to that and go, yeah, I believe that. Now they've got something that's completely made up nonsense that's not good for you at all. And you're believing that, and you can now have that as a belief.
And you now get stuck further.
Yeah.
The main problem is with all the information that's out there is it just gives you another belief system that you can't change it, or you're stuck in some way. And what we're trying to do is show you, actually, you need to switch all your belief systems off about the scenario, so you can actually solve it.
Yeah.
One of the things that helped me and Steve get better is when we unlearned everything we learnt. I had to unlearn everything I knew about therapy to create the DTO system, because it's not the same as anything out there. Once I unlearned things, I started to get better. But some of my learnings in the past made it worse. Some of the things I'd been taught about therapy made the problem worse in my mind because of how I perceived it. Not necessarily because there was a problem, but I just perceived it incorrectly, and some of the things that you learned as well was a problem.
Yeah, well, we talk about positive beliefs being the problem.
Positive beliefs being a massive problem.
And those positive beliefs can also be installed at an education level, because if you've been taught that this is it, and this leads to this, and this leads to this, and you believe that, and that's your fundamental program that drives it, but that actually isn't really the answer, it's actually counterproductive to it and keeps you trapped in it, you're never going to find a way out, because you can't see past the positive belief system.
No, that's right. The positive belief system keeps you more stuck, because you think that's doing you. That's the positive.
You actually have to unlearn the positive belief in order to find the solution. But
that's right.
That's why they're very dangerous.
That's why positive ones are very, very bad for you. Ideally, you don't really want any belief in your head at all about anything. Now, that's obviously a very extreme way of looking at something. But when people come to me, a lot of religious people, spiritual people, healers come to me. And those are the worst people. I include myself in that, and you, Steve. Yeah. We are the worst people because we've learned other belief systems that are apparently really good for us that actually mess us up further. And those problems, they can create way, way more problems than you could ever possibly imagine. One of my belief systems, because I'm a therapist, was that, well, I should be perfect and I should be healed of everything right now. And as we discussed earlier on, that's not life. That's not how that works.
Oh, absolutely.
But because I was believing that has actually stopped me from healing. Ironically enough, that actually blocked me from healing fully, because I believed that I should be perfect.
Yeah, but you also,
and so I kept trying to be perfect.
Yeah, but the other thing as well is that you end up creating a fake persona about yourself.
Yes.
And then you start acting and behaving in a way that you think you should, rather than being your true, real self.
Yes.
And then that causes a problem, because subconsciously, you're putting on an act and you're not really, and then all of a sudden, as a therapist, and you're there to help somebody, and you're acting inauthentically, that's going to screw you, because you're going, I'm like this person.
No, you're trying to be, and you're not really. That's
you're not really being who you are,
right. And actually, that ties in, because I spoke to a guy yesterday who is coming for sessions, and he's struggling, and he's been referred to me by someone else, and it's taken him time to contact me, and he's had a few traumatic things happen to him. And one of the things he's been doing is just convincing people he's okay.
Yeah.
He's been telling people, I'm okay.
Yeah, but I think 99% of the population are doing this.
Yeah, and they do. We try and tell ourselves we're okay because we don't want to deal with what's there, because we don't think we can deal with it.
So yes, and that's a good thing. But this is my. I'm going to give you my little take on it.
Go on.
This is my insight into it. Is that what happens is when people experience something bad in their life and they get that horrible feeling. Right? So when, for example, your girlfriend comes in and says, I'm leaving you, or you find out something's been unfair, or something bad happens, right? And you have that horrible feeling. That, if you don't like those feelings,
no.
Right? So you don't like them.
No.
Like, you hate them. But then as you go through life, you'll now do anything to avoid that feeling.
That's right.
Then what we end up doing is we teach ourselves and we learn not to feel. we're very selective in what we feel. We'll feel the good things when we're watching the TV program, but if the bad things come up that trigger something, well, no, we don't feel it. Or people who are feeling depressed and down and empty because they're living an inauthentic life, or they're in a relationship they don't really want to be in, but they're lying to themselves that they've got to stay there for this, that, and the other. But they've got these feelings going inside. What they do, instead of being authentic and dealing with it, they'll hide it and suppress 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 it. And then when you speak to them, well, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine.
Yeah,
but so, you'll go, hello, how are you doing today? No, I'm great, Steve, brilliant, yeah. And you can see it in their eye, they're absolutely... They're in the right state. And then when you say, well, are you sure? Because, you don't look too great. Yeah, no, and they'll lie again, they'll do it again. But we're taught not to...
And that can be made worse in certain fields when you're told that bad feelings are wrong. When you're taught that negative emotions are bad for you and they cause all sorts of problems, then you try and avoid them even more and you try and get away from them. And again, that doesn't work. Bad feelings are not bad, okay? We're human. We are all supposed to experience anger, resentment, bitterness, betrayal, hurt, fear, frustration.
Not as much as me, though, by the way.
No, not as much as Steve. He's been to enough for everybody.
If some of you haven't experienced it, then I've obviously taken your share.
Yes, that's what it is. Who's the bitterest man in the living room? The bitterest man in... No. He's... But Steve's been to a lot, in fairness. But there are people out there who've been to a lot of things, and we are taught, we are special spiritual people or religious people, we're taught that bad feelings, healers as well, we're taught you shouldn't experience negative, you shouldn't be negative, you shouldn't... That's bad. It's not bad. We're allowed to feel them, just not for the rest of our lives.
My biggest problem with
that's the thing. Don't experience it the rest of your life.
My biggest problem that I have is that when people come to me and they're in a bad place and they've tried everything, they end up coming to me because they've heard that I can switch it off and get rid of it. They come round and their belief system is yes, but I chose this before I come here.
Oh yes, that's a very good spiritual belief. Yes, that's what people get taught. I chose it before I came here.
So I decided before I come here to experience all of the stuff that I've experienced.
Yes. Now that is a typical belief system that spiritual people are told, and there's a principle in the DTO system that is a first principle. There are 5 principles, but the first principle is anything you get taught that leaves you with a fear, suffering, or as a victim, ignore it, because then you're stuck. So this belief actually falls into those categories.
It keeps you stuck.
It falls into the category that you're now victim to it because you can't solve it.
Yes.
You stay suffering.
Yeah. Because you chose it.
Because you chose it.
Yeah.
And it then creates fear because sometimes you just don't think you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Now I totally understand why people are told this, and that's okay. But it just keeps people stuck.
Yeah.
And I've treated people with this belief system and cleared it and got them better.
Yeah.
So what was really true? Was it really, really true that happened, or was it
Well, they might
not
say
true?
they chose it at that point to then...
Yeah. So be careful what you believe will be your reality.
Yes.
And that belief is just keeping it in place.
Yeah. A bit like what we covered last week about if if Mercury goes into retrograde, you're going to make bad decisions.
That's right.
And if you've got Saturn in the 8th house, it's going to suppress and blah 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 blah.
So I actually personally don't believe we are meant to suffer in this world.
No.
We suffer based on human belief systems. We suffer based on
emotional responses,
triggers, traumas,
and those are learned.
And we suffer based on fear. There's a lot of fear in the world, and we are in a world where a lot of fear is being imposed upon us, and that fear makes us suffer even more. Yeah. And that's all a complete illusion, it's complete nonsense, and I just don't believe in suffering. I think that's a good belief, that I don't believe in suffering, because it's actually got me out of suffering and got loads of people out of suffering.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's got people out of suffering who believed they had to suffer or couldn't do anything about it. Yeah. So I actually think not believing in suffering is a good thing because it actually allows me to get people better. But when you believe that you should suffer in this world and you have to for some reason, well, you just end up suffering and you end up
being the victim and you have a victim mindset. And then
you just end up not enjoying your world. And we don't want that for you because we know it's not true, but we do understand that you believe that's true.
But the victim will leave you feeling very alone and feeling very powerless as well.
Yeah, and when you feel very alone, that makes things even worse. Yeah. And you just go around in circles.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of belief systems out there that people are taught and it just actually don't work for them. So if you do have a belief that's like that, ask yourself, does it work for you? Really, does it work for you? Does it make you feel happy, joyful, wonderful, and peaceful to think about that? Does it make you feel mentally clear and focused? Yeah. Does it make you feel genuinely physically strong and energised? Does it make you feel genuinely safe and secure? Does it make you feel genuinely spiritually grounded and connected? And does it make sure that yourself and everyone around you is loving, warm, kind and friendly? If it doesn't work on those levels, all of those levels at the same time, at 100%, well, 98%, given with the example of griefs and things in life, then it's not working for you, and stop believing it, because it's not working for you. You just never asked the question. So those are kind of the blocks that people have.
Yeah.
And those are kind of blocks that we come across, and some of the weird belief systems that people have.
Yeah, but it all comes to the PTSD as well, because actually those belief systems that this thing is so bad that's happened to them that it's beyond repair. They're so badly damaged.
Yes.
And which is theoretically isn't, because I know from my own personal experiences of the people that I've been able to completely heal in less than an hour from really bad things.
Yeah.
And so, okay, in some cases, the longer it's been and gone, and it might take a little bit longer, but again, it's the belief that it can't be solved. It's the belief that they have to suffer, the belief that they can't be healed, and the trauma's so bad it's ingrained and imprinted into their soul, and they're stuck with it, and that's not true.
Even before I used DTI, I used other techniques, and I had a lady come to me and she had 3 miscarriages. And she'd since had 2 beautiful children, but before that she had 3 miscarriages, and now it was being triggered over and over again. She couldn't stop crying. Yeah. Went to doctors, gave her antidepressants, that didn't work. And those 3 miscarriages,
these doctors are very, very good at sort of helping you out these days.
They're brilliant. They just provide pills. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But they didn't work. They didn't help her at all. She came to me very sceptical. I used a technique I was using at the time, which was tapping. And within about 8 weeks, we'd cleared all of the miscarriages. She was feeling much better and happy, and she's been great ever since. And another lady at the time, when I first started working, she predicted her boyfriend's death. She was dating someone. They worked in the same place. She had a psychic image and saw her boyfriend die in a motorcycle accident. And then a couple of hours later, she couldn't get hold of him. A couple of hours later, got a call and he died in a motorcycle accident. And she was completely traumatised by this. And she couldn't drive down the road to work, where she had to go to work. She couldn't sit on the bench they sat on every day. And within a few weeks, and certainly 1 hour of working on that road, driving down the road, we was able to get her to drive down that road with no response about it. And she was able to sit on the bench, and she's since moved on and got married, and she's happy now. But that would have that was a post-traumatic stress disorder type thing, and so was the miscarriage thing. Yeah. That's the type of thing that happens. But one thing that is never really mentioned with post-traumatic stress disorder or with traumatic memories, that is actually the biggest problem that I want to cover. This is the missing piece that DTO does very well over any other technique I've ever seen, and it gets rid of the main problem with PTSD. The main 2 problems with PTSD are the images and the sounds created in that memory. So for this lady, it was the image of seeing her partner die.
Well, the young lad, he heard the missiles and heard the explosions, so I managed to switch that.
That's right. One of my clients, when she was younger, her dad made her watch war movies. And these war movies, all she heard was bombs going off. And now she was never in a war, but this alone traumatised her. So he just switched off all those images and sounds. And that is really key in solving PTSD, because there will be an image or a sound somewhere in your system that you keep playing unconsciously in your mind. And DTO can switch that off very quickly. You don't have to find the emotions under it. You can just literally switch off the image and sound so it no longer plays, and it plays something else entirely. And I've done this to lots of people. I know you have as well. And we've done it over and over and over again. Yep. And we can even teach you to do that bit of it. That bit is so simple. Anyone can do that bit of it. And these images and sounds trigger the response in your brain because they're constantly there. And once you switch those off, then the PTSD reduces greatly. But this is not talked about in traditional PTSD online resources or therapies, because they don't think you can change the image and sound. They think it's implants in your memory, it's going to be there forever, and you have to just deal with it and cope with it. But this is what traumatises firemen, police officers, military, nurses, doctors, because they're seeing and hearing things they don't want to be seeing and hearing, and they're doing a fantastic job, and they're being traumatised by these images and sounds.
In some cases, well, I mean, I come from a family of background anyway. Both my father and my brother are in the fire service, and so I hear firsthand all of the problems, and many people end up not being able to go back to work because of it. Now that's costing the state millions and millions, right? Right. So and I know, give them to me for 2 hours.
Yep.
The chances are probably had to get rid of that. They will then have to go back to their job. Their lives have improved, and it's saving the
And their relationships improve because
everything
it then affects their relationship.
Everything improves, and and as well as as well as I know that we'd end up saving the state millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds in pensions and payoffs and all the rest of it.
Yeah, one of my friends knows someone who was a fireman, and he had a traumatic event happen. I don't know him personally; it was a second-hand story.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't cope with what happened in the fire brigade. It ruined his job. It ruined his relationship with his wife, and they separated because these memories, these images and sounds in his brain were just stopping him being him, and he couldn't function in life anymore. And so he would then go out and search for other things to try and make him feel better, but that didn't include his wife or his job. It just made everything worse. Yeah. So he then started behaving in a way that wasn't who he was. So his wife no longer knew who he was anymore. His personality changed.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with these images and sounds and these traumatic memories. Your personality changes and you almost become a different person. And this can actually happen with non-traumatic memories. It can change your personality.
I was about to say, because I know that I went through a period where I went through some really bad shit and I did change for the worse. Yep. Luckily enough, now I'm back to where I was before any of that. But so I know that I can categorically say that sort of changes.
So your personality, it can change with a non-traumatic memory. But this is the biggest problem. If you notice your personality changing, but often people don't know.
Or your behaviours.
Or your behaviours are changing. Or someone's behaviours are changing. It's because they've had a shock, a UD moment, or traumatic memory, or something has upset them and hurt them, and it's altered their personality. They haven't just changed randomly. So they might suddenly become addicted to something, or might have a phobia, or they might suddenly start playing around, or cheating, or they might start not being late for work, or drinking, or their personality completely changed from who they were.
Yeah, I must start getting really angry and short and frustrated.
Frustrated with people, and
that's what happened to me.
Not being the nice person they used to be, or the calm person they used to be. It can affect you in multiple ways. And a lot of traumatic memories do this, especially when it's images and sounds, because the image and sound is playing in your unconscious constantly. If you imagine having a record on and that record playing over and over again, people have always experienced it when you can't get a song out of your head, right? And you hear a song on the radio and all of a sudden it's in your head constantly. Imagine if that's a song you hated and it played in your head every single day. That is basically
like Westlife.
On
A6 Radio. It drove me mad.
It drove you mad.
I had to get that. It took me 4 weeks to switch that off.
Yeah, that's
no, Westlife. They got a couple of good tracks.
I like Westlife. That's fine. Westlife are quite good. Those sort of things. Songs can get stuck in your head as well. When relationships break up, if you had a favourite song, all of a sudden you hear that song everywhere on the radio, and it's now become a negative thing. And that song then triggers all these memories. It was our song. Yeah. We loved each other so much.
I shouldn't mock it, because I know going back to, I've still got a song from when I was in my teens. But, I still think about that. I still think about that person very fondly.
As soon as you remember that song, it triggers the memories. But that song can be switched off, so you no longer, when you hear the song, you no longer think about that memory, because that's just a trigger. It shouldn't actually be there. That's more of a minor thing, but it can upset people and hurt people. I remember, every time I'd walk past a Greggs, Baker's, it would, I'd see Greggs, the image, and it would trigger me to a past love.
Can I was on holiday.
Yeah.
With my mum. Yeah. This was this year.
Oh, this year?
This just gone. Holiday, I've just been in Spain.
Right.
We're sitting in the bar after, they have the entertainment thing in the hotel. We're sitting in the bar. We're having our I was drinking my lemon Fanta.
Right.
My mum was having her vodka and whatever it was. And all of a sudden, there's this opera singer, the blind opera singer. I know his name. I can't think of his flipping name now. But anyway, this song comes on. All of a sudden, my mum just starts bursting into tears. Right. Whoa, Mum, what's going on? So anyway, she goes, it reminds me of this and this and this.
Yep.
So the song that she heard, she goes, I don't know why, but every time I hear this song, it makes me cry. And so I said, all right, okay, let's go here. Right? It's like 11:45 at night. Anyway, I found it, switched it off. Next night, song comes on, didn't cry at all.
Brilliant, fantastic.
But it was associated to the memory that every time she heard it, it made her cry. So I just went in to find out what it was and switched off.
Great. So although that was a small thing,
but I'm just used for the song.
That's right. Songs are they create emotion in us, and they're very emotive.
Well, it reminded her of a song at a funeral.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. So all these things trigger us, and although that was a small thing, technically, in the grand scheme of things, it was upsetting your mum. But if they become very severe, then they create lots of problems in the brain. If you hear guns going off, or you're seeing dead bodies, or you've seen worse than that, they then create lots of problems. And that is the biggest problem with PTSD. When you have PTSD, it's the image and sounds.
Yeah, it is.
And I've never really found a technique to switch the image and sound off as well as DTO does.
I haven't failed with it, mate.
It works every time. There are techniques out that reduce the image and sound, but I've never known anything to really switch it off completely. I'm not saying there aren't out there, I just don't know of them. DTO works great for that, and it's such a simple thing. You can learn to do that yourself. Just that bit alone, you don't actually need me or Steve or another therapist to do that. You can do that yourself really easily once you learn the basic DTO process. And that will greatly reduce your PTSD symptoms right down. So that is the missing piece that no one really talks about when it comes to PTSD, but very, very important. And even if you've not got PTSD, you've probably got an image or a sound that is a problem in your life. It might be something like a song, in Steve's mum.
I mean, I've had one for a few months, actually, and it was when I saw Jordan Henderson lifting the Champions League Cup back in June. That traumatised me.
Right, that traumatised you quite a bit,
I was very unhappy about the result of that, having lost it. But so, yeah, it's taken me a few weeks to switch that off.
So there are some things we can't resolve, folks, and insanity is one of them. But no, I'll switch that off for Steve later. But no, if you've got...
devastating. It's the worst night of my life. It's the worst game of football ever.
I'm going to end this podcast right now, and I'm going to clear Steve because somebody else kicked a ball into a net and won a trophy. Yeah. It's very traumatic for Steve.
But yeah, images, yeah.
Images and sounds. Yeah. I'd be the same if one of my favourite shows got cancelled. In fairness, so it's fine. So images and sounds are very important, but. Anyone listening,
I bet you was devastated when Jeremy Kyle got taken off air.
I was totally devastated, yes. Absolutely dreadful about that. But actually, you know what? I do feel for Jeremy Kyle because he's probably really upset and hurting over that. And that is, that's something that can be switched off. That's not something that he should go through, bless him. And all of these things that happen to us, usually there is an image and sound involved. Even if it's not PTSD, usually there is something that we've heard or seen that lodges in our mind. It might be your dad criticising you when you're younger. It might be your dad or your mum waving their finger at you that stays in your mind. But those are images and sounds that you then play unconsciously when you go to do something.
And there is an emotion attached to that. So even though you're seeing the image or hearing the sound, that actually triggers those negative...
That's right.
Really bad feelings that are going on, and you won't know why all of a sudden you're feeling those things, but it's an unconscious connection to the image that then triggers the emotion.
Yeah, that's right. And because sometimes they're really, really subtle, and sometimes they're obvious, but we don't always connect exactly where it comes from. Yeah. But you don't need to with the image. You don't need to know where it comes from. You can switch the image and sound off without having to find out where it comes from or why it's there. That's not relevant. It doesn't matter. You can just switch it off so that when you see or hear that thing again, you no longer respond, just like Steve's mum didn't respond to the song. And she could hear the song, she enjoyed the song, but she no longer had the response because it didn't trigger the past memory, which is the way it really should be. We shouldn't be triggered by these images and sounds. So if you are suffering PTSD, that's one of the first things you need to switch off. Or if you're just listening to this and you have other images and sounds that you know are there, your dad telling you off, your school teacher pointing at you, anything, or the favourite song from a relationship, you can switch those things off with the DTO system and get back to being you without running all those programs. And those images and sounds often drive phobias, addictions, and the behaviours. So I think that's covered it pretty much.
I think we've done a great job with that, actually, Matt. I think it's been a really informative podcast. I think you
hopefully everyone's
really
got something
stuff
out of that. Obviously, the three important things are obviously the images and sounds, the reason why some symptoms occur immediately afterwards and later on. That's based on the nervous system.
Yes.
And the reason why some people respond to it and other people don't.
Yes.
Based on the way, again, you've perceived it and you've taken it personally and gone into fight and flight.
And more importantly, if you have got it, you can solve it.
You can solve it. That's right. Don't live with it. Yeah, don't let it ruin your life. You can change it. We find it really sad that a fireman or police officer will quit because they often love their job. Yeah. They really do. But you can't go into that job if you don't love it. Yeah. And
even people in the military that have been out and done whatever they've done out there, whatever their experience is, and we know that isn't who they are, and it can be solved. No. And I'd hate to think how many people out there are suffering I want to say unnecessarily, but unnecessarily because there is a solution to it now. But,
And what is very, very sad is a lot of those people, they put their life on the line for other people or our country, and then when they have a problem,
they get thrown on the crap.
They just get passed aside. Yeah. Just passed aside, sent to a therapy that doesn't really change anything, and then they're not wanted and not useful anymore. Yeah. And that is really, really sad. And we know...
You talk about self-worth issues. If you dedicate your life to the army or the military or the police force or the fire brigade or the medical services, and you've done all this good in the world, and all of a sudden something happens in your life, and all of a sudden you now become redundant in a way of like not being able to do your job. And those people that you've dedicated your service to go, well, you're no use to us now, so you better go and we're going to have to sign you off. Yes. And then once you're signed off, that's it, you're done. That's just so many homeless people from the military. I mean, it's disgusting behaviour.
Yes, totally.
Totally disgusting.
When it can be solved.
When it can be solved, yes. Exactly.
And we do understand traditionally they don't believe that, and that's fine, but I wish traditional medicine would just go, wait a minute, is there a way to solve this? When people come up with an answer, they should look into solving it, not just maintain and cope with it, and it can be solved. And it is sad to see these people cast aside when you are still, if you are suffering PTSD, you are still a valued member of society. You still have people in your life who love you, as I said earlier on, and you don't need to feel that way any longer, and you can move forward with your life. You just need the trauma switched off. So please, if you are suffering, get in touch. And we would love to help you.
And how to get in touch ultimately. So first and foremost, you can get in touch with Jonathan and myself on our website, which is www.inside-outeffect.co.uk. On there, you'll find our details, our contact details. You can contact us there. We've got our amazingly brilliant, stupendous Facebook page now, which went live last week.
Yeah.
You can also email us directly at insideouteffect@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So that's another alternative route to get in touch with us. And there's our own personal websites, healingthemind.co.uk or Jonathan's, which is decodingpain.com. Is there any other way they can get in touch with us?
I think that's enough. I think that's enough. You've got to overwhelm them.
Yeah.
They're going to have to switch off all the things we've told them now of ways to contact us, because it's just overwhelmed.
Yeah, we have a business
card. If you are overwhelmed by how many ways there are to contact us, then please contact us so we can switch that off.
It's just I'm feeling alone. I feel all lonely. I need some company in my life. I need some company in my life. So I'm going to give them, if I give them as many ways of contacting us, then there's no excuse.
There's no excuse for not contacting us. Even if it's just to say how much you love us.
Solve my loneliness
That'd
problem.
That'd be great. Yes, that's great.
Great. So anyway, so you know how to get in contact with us. And so we will going.
Yep.
Where will we be going? We will be going to do another podcast in the next week.
Yes.
Now, we haven't actually even spoken about what it is we're going to do.
No, we have not talked about that. We normally do talk about it before the start.
Should we discuss it live, or should we just
discuss it live?
Leave it open.
Well, I'll tell you what. What we'll do actually this time, an idea.
Open it up.
We'll open it up. We'll leave it for a few days. Go to our Facebook page.
Yes.
And post a comment on what you would like us to talk about. What problem would you like us to solve? Don't go into details. Don't personal. Just state what you'd like us to talk about. And it's
label.
Specific. The label you may be having. Yeah, and that's another problem we talked about earlier.
Big problem.
There's so many labels out there.
Emotional personality disorder.
Doctors and traditional therapists are just putting labels on things. Ultimately, you're just going through emotional responses.
Yeah.
You don't need to label it with everything. You just need to find out what the problem is and resolve it.
Yeah.
And I do understand, but it does leave people stuck. And a lot of people I speak to hate labels.
Yeah.
Labels are great in your clothes.
Yeah.
Apart from that, you don't really need them. So we don't. So don't get too.
So how am I going to distinguish my spaghetti bolognese from my chili then if I haven't got him labelled?
Well, that is okay.
Come on, man!
You need them
more than clothes.
You need them in your food and your clothes. All right, and on your coffee. Otherwise, you could mix up Maxwell House with gravy granules, as Del Boy did in Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, that's right,
which was a very, very funny sketch.
Yeah.
If you've not seen it, if you're abroad somewhere, don't worry about it. But yes, go to our Facebook group and post a comment and go what you'd like us to talk about, and we're not doing it till next week.
Yes.
So you've got a few days before we start planning it out, because we spend weeks, hours, days planning our podcast, don't we, Steve?
Yes, absolutely.
Totally, yeah. We up late nights thinking the best thing to say. No, we don't really. But post on the Facebook page what you'd like us to cover, and we will start covering more of these. Yeah. We have so much information and things we're going to cover, and we know what we want to cover, if you have something specific, we will. If we know how to solve it, how we've done it, or we've experienced it ourselves, we will explain.
Yeah, and I think what it is that the other thing as well. It's weird, like, you know, what we don't want to do is come across as preaching our stuff onto you. This is more about us sharing our knowledge and our information about solving problems. And so we are doing it very generically. We're doing it in a way where we think we can get to help as many people as possible. But there's going to be things that we think are pertinent and that's going on in individuals or people on a bigger scale that we're missing out. So I think it'd be really great if you guys could go onto our Facebook page, give us a suggestion of what it is you'd like us to cover, and then we will cover that. We know whoever's got the most votes or whatever, or whatever the most pertinent, the one that we think that we could, that's you know, ideal. But so don't be scared, don't be shy, and go on Facebook and give us our next topic.
Yeah, that'd be great. Fantastic. If you could do that, that'd be great. And as we said, you know, on this podcast, we're sharing the best information about it so you can understand it better. You know, tragically, we can't reach through the microphone and heal it for you on the microphone because everyone has their own beliefs and traumas. But we can give you the best advice on what you need to do to solve it so you have the right information. Because that's the first stop. If you don't have the right information, you don't know what to do to solve it, you end up going around in circles.
Yeah, well, it's a bit like saying, you know, it's a bit like having using a screwdriver to do your washing up.
Exactly. Yeah, do you not do that?
I stopped it last year when I switched off my washing up phobia.
Oh, I'm still doing that. I used a spanner last week to clean the plates. I didn't know that was a problem. Okay, I better change that. Yeah.
It's getting a bit silly now.
Yeah, I better stop using the dishcloth to change my engine oil.
Yeah, but that's what we're doing.
That's basically what people do. Yes. So post anything on the Facebook page. Not anything. Post what you'd like us to talk about, and we'll cover that in the next podcast. And I think we'll leave that there. I think that's been a really good
go
podcast.
to our... Also, we've got loads of events coming up and talks coming up. If you're in the local area of London or in the home counties, we are doing some law of attraction events. We're also going to be putting on a 4-day workshop, which is all about law of attraction and basically we're going to be teaching the DTO system. I'll be teaching you in detail the techniques of making it work for you. And we'll also be teaching you how to clear the blocks that stop you from attracting, and amongst lots of other stuff with that.
We'll teach you the DTO process to clear your past memories that are blocking it, the guilt and shames, the sabotage, all of the things that are blocking law of attraction from working, and then the techniques that Steve teaches you to then get it to manifest it in your life.
And a little bit of science about it as well to sort of substantiate it. But there's an event page on that, inside-out-effect.co.uk website. Other than that, I think we're going to stop waffling now because we're waffling far too much. Yes. And so I'm going to say ciao for now. Have a great week, and I look forward to speaking to you and from you, Jonathan.
Take care, everyone. Have a great week, and we look forward to seeing what you'll post on Facebook.
Great. Ta-da.